Ladies and gentlemen, today is June 14th, 2016, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 297, where we learn to be better artists, and that really hurt my arm. But that is okay, because today we're going to be jumping back into our D.VA piece. We're going to be having some fun with that. We're going to be talking about all kinds of cool stuff, such as masking your character, how to choose the proper colors, and then we're going to be talking a little bit about lighting, and why setting up your piece in this fashion and with these colors is going to help you along your journey to creating the best piece ever made. But before we get into that, we need to take some time to talk about something very important. It's actually quite bad news. It's bad news. And that has to do with Facebook, okay? Because normally you're supposed to be able to go here to see all of your amazing pictures, right? And that URL still works. It still works if you go to tinyurl/KNKL fanart. But the problem is that it's going to take you here to Facebook. And then you're going to see like this. And then you have to basically set see all. You press see all. And then bam, there's the lovely lane. But it's like really cryptic and really hard to find. But regardless, let's go ahead and scroll through this because you guys have been being awesome and submitting your beautiful art. So thank you to everyone who has submitted their awesome art. And if you would like to see your art focused on and represented and what's the word I'm looking for, featured on the show, then just go ahead and type in that tiny URL, like the page, submit your art, and that could be you scrolling on by right there. And with that, I think we are good. Oh man, hang on. And it's like really like badly coded. That's why it's like lagging as it's like scrolling up. But you can take the time to see all these for yourself on your own time. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into today's tutorial because we got a lot to talk about. Got a lot to talk about. When do we not have a lot to talk about? Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with is picking up from last week. And this is part 2 of the series. So if you want to go back and see part 1, where we were closer to right around here, just click on this picture right here. It'll take you back a week and you can see how we got to this point. But today we're talking about how we refine the sketch, specifically with the mech. And I have prepared a time lapse. So let's go ahead and get into that. All right, cool. And in the meantime, while I entertain you, while this video entertains you, I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm going to give you a little bit of story, talk a little bit more about Overwatch and why it is, in fact, the best game that has been released upon mankind since the beginning of time. But more so about the actual design and what I really like about this stuff. Not only because this, like, drawing this gun, it's literally like a minigun shotgun type thing that D.VA has on her mech. But just the shapes and all those things are so reminiscent of Metal Slug, and I just love that game to death. It is like one of my favorite arcade games of all time. All the Nickelcades out here in Utah, they all feature it. Every time I go there, I love playing Metal Slug with my brothers or my friends. It's been a while since we've been, though. It's been quite a while. We need to make it out there again. But I just love all the designs of the Metal Slug games. And while I was drawing this, I was realizing all the similarities and just the coolness of like the mechanics. And here's a perfect example of our design philosophy at work, right? Because you look at this gun and you say, hey, this is a really nice gun. Like, I like the way this looks. And that's not only because it's laid out in proper perspective, as I've taught you guys how to do. I've taught you guys that many times. So make sure you're doing that. And if you're curious about laying stuff out in perspective, okay, fine, I'll put a link here. Click the link and you can go to, I think I'll link this one to Splatoon. Yeah. Splatoon, back where we talked about laying out stuff in perspective. So go ahead and click here to go see that as well. But I was really happy with laying this out in perspective, but also like the design mechanics, right? Because we have, as we've learned, an awesome design, something that is pleasing to the eye, consists of large shapes, medium shapes, and small shapes. And look at this. This is a perfect example right here. We have this large shape, this big plate that covers the gun. And then we have all these little intricacies inside that represent our medium and small shapes. And when you look at this, it's like, oh, that is a very balanced piece. That is a very balanced asset or gun or firearm, whatever you want to call it. It's a balanced look. And so it's just really fun to kind of pick apart the designs that the masters, Blizzard, have put together and just really ask myself, like, why did they choose to make it that way? Why did they choose to design it this way? And make a couple alterations on my own, right? As far as D.VA goes with the freaking things that stick off her ears, because those aren't nearly big enough. Her ears are not nearly big enough for a motif being a bunny. We all know that. So I went ahead and just kicked those up a notch. And now we're getting into the lines, and this leads us to a very important part of the show. This is going to lead us into the question catapults. All right, it's time for some questions, and this one is coming in from Cantrona. Cantrona asks, Tina, you've been doing the sketch lifting method for ages. But in the video you posted last week, you were talking about painting values as if you had a clay model rather than with values. Right, and this is exactly what I want to talk to you guys about today, because I've been going on and on and on about this, and I want to make sure I set the record clear. And I want to say that you want to paint, like, really there's two different techniques here. And one is painting like this, right, which I did with the Farah piece. And this is actually going in there and refining a lot of stuff. See how I've actually gone in there and I've begun to actually like paint in like textures. I've painted in not only values, but all those textures and stuff. And this is nice, but I found that like you'll have to have a lot more additional overpainting that's gonna go in at the end, right? Whereas painting like this, where it's more line art focused, is going to allow you to place in your colors, and then you can really go in there, and this is what we're gonna get to in just a moment, but say you wanna be able to light up this suit, right? And you want it to be like this light blue for whatever reason, okay? And I mean, it's probably gonna look kind of weird, but for whatever reason you want it to be like this blue. And actually that looks actually really cool. But see how now this allows us, actually looks really cool, hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, cool. So I wasn't expecting that. But see how now the actual value, the local color, is able to come through. Whereas if we did that on the Farah piece, basically what you get is something like this. Whereas you'll paint in this blue here, and see how now it just gets kind of diluted. It gets diluted by everything. Wait, why is it doing that? Oh, okay. See how it starts to get diluted and it's all muddy, and then you have to go in there and do all that line coloring and stuff. Not enough of the local color or the actual color is shining through. So I found that doing your sketches like this or laying out your lines like this really helps out a lot with if you're going to be doing a picture that is very heavily like you're going to be doing a lot of lighting with it, or you want to be able to experiment with color. Whereas this kind of more so figures out a lot of things early, but maybe not so much. Maybe it doesn't help you in the end. I don't know. But that's up for you to decide. The point is, make sure it's balanced. Try this stuff out, but also maybe it's not so much of an amendment as more just like an alternate way of doing it. And I think that this is a little bit more, I don't want to say noob friendly. I mean, I'm a noob. I'm using it right here, right? But I like it for this purpose. Just kind of go back and forth and say, do I want to use a value technique for this and then sketch lift it? Or do I want to just draw with lines and then sketch lift it? And if you're curious what I'm even talking about with sketch lifting, then just click on this picture right here. It'll take you back. Yeah, it'll take you back to the previous episode, because I think we talked about the sketch lifting thing in that one too. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get back into the time lapse, because now we're talking about masking. And this is going to be really, really, really important. Okay, so let's zoom in here. I'm still blown away with how cool that blue looked. I'm like, dang, now maybe we should like totally make the rest of the picture go off of that blue. But anyway, okay, so what I'm doing here with the masks is I am laying out all of the colors as though I'm painting the shadow. I'm painting dark colors first. Like, look at this background right here. It's a very dark gray. And then for the mech, I painted like this dark pink. And that's not so much the important part, but even right here, this is really where you start to see the difference, is that you look at this part of D.VA's armor and you ask yourself, what color is that? And you would say white. But hang on a second. Hang on just a dang second. Let's go ahead and go into Photoshop and let's find out what color we're actually using there, because it may or may not be white. It may not be white. In fact, it's not white at all. That's the spoiler. Is that, look at this. The color that we're actually using is this right here. We're not painting white. We're rather painting what the shadow is. And based upon our ambient colors, right, what color do we want our shadows to be? Well, they're going to be darker and they're going to be a little bit cooler. We're cooling off our shadows. So actually what we're painting here is this sort of mid-tone gray, or this mid-tone gray with a little bit of blue added into it. Don't forget about looking at where your hue is. Is this purple? Is it blue? Is it teal? You know, and in this case, we're right in that purple range. Okay, so that is lesson one, is that as you create your line art and you're beginning to add your masks on top of it, I want you guys to start thinking about painting in your shadows versus this right here. Because you'll look at D.VA's suit And you would say, oh, well, that part is blue. So you're naturally going to want to paint it like this color. You're going to want to go in and say, okay, well, the suit's blue. Let's paint it blue like this. But then the problem with this is that then you're in charge of going in and painting the shadows. You have to go in and paint the shadows, and it just doesn't quite get the same feeling, I feel. It doesn't work the same. It doesn't work exactly the same painting in the shadows as in painting in the lights. It's much more fun, and I feel like you learn a lot more when you go in and paint in the lights. But that is going to be what we go into in just a moment, because we got to finish up this time lapse. So let's get back to that. All right. But yeah, I hope you guys have been having a good time with this. I certainly have been enjoying doing this piece, even though I had to slave away on it all day today because trying to get caught up with work and also trying to become the best PvPer in Dark Souls 3 at the same time and balancing all these things back and forth. There's a lot of stuff that I have to balance, but that's okay because you know what? I can do it all. I can do it all. Actually, that's a terrible mentality to have. Don't think that. Actually, I've learned how to. I actually got another question on IMZ that was really good. The person was asking, oh shoot, what was the question? It was like, how do you find time to do all this stuff? How do you find time to do your comic, do the show, do freelance work, have a girlfriend, you know? It's like, and that actually takes up the most time of all, but not for the reason that you might think. And also have time to play Overwatch. Lots of things, right? But actually, the secret is that I have just learned how to get rid of a lot of stuff. In fact, I want to find out who posted that question because they deserve credit. They deserve credit, dang it. So I'm going to pull that up stealthily. I'm going to move that to the other side. And in the meantime, I'm going to distract you with this picture of D.Va, and then we're going to move into that. Okay, so in the meantime, just look at this person's face right here. Look at this D.Va face. I'm going to find who asked that question. Okay, because we did question catapults today. We did lots of question catapults. Okay, so the question was sent in by... Hang on, just give it a second to load. Here we go. Question was sent in by Ibra Louie. Ibra Louie asks about how do you have the time to complete finished artwork, freelance work, have a girlfriend, play Overwatch. Thank you for continuing. You guys are always so nice to me. Thank you so much for posting on the MZ. Not only just posting on the MZ, but posting nice things. Not just to me, but to each other. You guys give so much awesome feedback. You guys are freaking awesome. And this episode is like part friggin' tutorial and part just saying thank you for being amazing because you guys are the best community I could have possibly asked for. And I really hope that I can give back by at least teaching you guys a couple things. Like how to light your character. Hey, let's get back into that. And in the meantime, I'll tell you guys about how I manage my time. And that is that I've learned how to cut out stuff. I've learned how to... Like, I'm doing all the things that I want to do, and at times I need to actually admit to myself that I can't do it all. I have to be willing to admit that I can't do it all, and I need to really sit down and say, okay, what are the important things that I do with my time? And then what are the things that I have to say no to, okay? And meanwhile, let me show you guys what you're going to do here. Okay, so after you have painted all of your shadows in on your character, then what you're going to do is you're going to say, hey, you know what? Now that we've painted these shadows, now that we've figured out all the important parts of these shadows, because, hey, look at this skin color. Look at this. It's very, very interesting because you look at this and you say, hey, that's D.Va's skin. What color is this? Is that tan? Well, it looks that way, but that's because of the way that it's relating to all of the other colors, right? We're comparing it to like this white and then this color of the hair. But actually what color the skin is if you look here, it's actually going towards the purple range. It's like it's like smack dab in the middle of like red and purple. And yet when we put that on here, it appears as a skin tone. And that has to do with color relativity, ladies and gentlemen. That's why stuff looks awesome. That's why people can paint weird colors and it still looks okay to you. It still looks okay to your eyes because your mind or your brain basically perceives colors in terms of relativity to everything else that is around it. Same thing with the eyes. We painted the eyes this blue color. Yet you look at someone's eyes and you don't say that they're blue. Or, well, the white parts of it are not blue. People obviously have blue eyes. But you don't say that the white part is blue because it's relative. It's all relative. So, anyway, That's why this is the hardest part, is figuring out how to mask all of your things out. Oh, and okay, before we actually get to lighting, I need to tell you guys about this, about picking the proper colors and how this can really help you out. Okay, so if you'll look here, direct your attention down towards the layers, and you can see here that each of these things has their own layer. And if you're curious about downloading this PSD, don't worry, it will be available at the end of the show. You can click on something and that'll take you over to the Patreon and you can do all that stuff and you can look at it for yourself. But let's talk about this, because each of these layers is all separated. See, you have skin, you have eye, pink, metal, hair. All of these layers are separated out. Now here's something that's really cool, is that say you are wanting to, let's go ahead and take away everything but the itch in my nose. Actually, let's take that out right now. And let's put on the character mask and the white. Okay? So, you might ask, how do I know what color to paint this white? How did I know to create it and paint it as this blue, right? And the honest answer is, well, you gotta know what value or kind of where your shadows are going to be going to. And in this case, I said that they are going to be cooling off. All of our shadows are going to be moving towards blue. Okay, but here's a really cool way that you can play around with that stuff, is that because you've separated everything out onto its own layer, right, because I taught you to do it that way, you're going to go into your Hue tool, which is Control U, and then you're going to just slip this back and forth. Move this slider back and forth, slide a little to the right, slide a little to the left, and see what you like, because each of these things will change the shadows. Do you want your shadows to go completely blue? Do you want your shadows to become more red? Because this could also represent your freaking whites, right? This could represent your white color, okay? But then, because of that, you would then take something like the actual suit color, and you would know that because your shadows are moving towards the warms, your shadows are moving towards warm colors, that you're actually going to want to have the blue part of her suit move towards purple, right? Because we're adding red to it. We're adding some warmth to it. So then everything, all of your other colors are going to move towards a red feeling, okay? So that's what I'm getting at here, is that now that we put on all these other layers that we have created, you'll notice that all of these colors actually are moving towards a cool version of itself, right? See, the pink, right, which is up here in the reds, is moving towards purple. The skin, which is naturally more towards like this peach, reddish color, also moving toward purple. Even the hair, check this out. The hair, it's a brown, right? Which is gonna be like up here. This is also moving towards purple, right? So all of the colors move towards purple, or in this case, I mean, there are a lot of like warm colors, so they're becoming more, or they're moving purple, right? We're adding blue to the warm colors, creating more purple, okay? So I hope that helps you guys out. Oh, and even check this out, the metals here. Look at what color we're actually using here. It's very desaturated, but see how we're still in the blue range. Notice how much saturation we've added to it as well, okay? So because of all that, we've added blue to all of our shadows. Now we have a cohesive color. Now we have a cohesive color scheme for our character. Now we can move into the most important part and I can finish my story. And that is, how do I balance my time? And that is, I figured out how to cut everything out that I didn't like to do. I figured out how to cut out driving to work. I figured out how to get out of the traffic that goes from Valencia, California to Santa Monica, California, which is about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, mind you, to and fro, right? So that's about like 4 extra hours that I have during the day that I have to spend sitting in my car. I figured out how to not go into meetings that I'm not actually contributing anything to, right? I figured out how to say, hey, you know what? I'm just an artist for this company, and what I'm here to do is create art. Am I here to sit in a meeting and listen to everybody throw around a bunch of big words and wait for the other guy to stop talking so that way they can say what they wanted to say, and then at the end of the meeting, nothing really gets solved anyway, and then because we're waiting on somebody else who isn't at the meeting to give their okay on it, it's like, is that really the best use of my time? And the answer is no. The best use of my time is being an artist. The best use of my time is creating art, right? And I'm not saying that that's how all the meetings go with my clients, but most of the time I've noticed that, you know, it's just best for me to stick to doing art, right? Okay, so I figured out how to cut that stuff out. And that's what I would say to you. Shoot, I got the name here. Ibra Louie. That's what I'd say, is just take inventory of where your time is going. I'm going to go ahead and put it here for a second. Take an inventory of where all of your time is going. And then you will find yourself saying, hey, you know what? I'm actually spending hours of time doing this one thing. I'm spending hours of time practicing PvP in Dark Souls 3. Do I need to do that? And actually, I would argue that you do, because you do need time to relax. You do need time to just kind of veg out and relax. You need time to watch Breaking Bad or the latest episode, or friggin' binge watch the latest season of Game of Thrones. You need that time to relax and kind of release that stuff. But then you need to also have time where you are working. You need to have time where you're building. You need to have time where you're stretching yourself. You need to be pushing. And because that stuff is very, very valuable. And if you take that away from a person, then they become it's almost like they become ill. They become depressed. And it's almost like, and it's really weird. And I've gone through this stuff. I've gone through points where I just feel like my motivation and my excitement for life has just kind of gone away because the challenges have gone away. Because I haven't been setting up any new goals, any new challenges for myself. So anyway, okay, well, we're getting into a whole new thoughtful here. We need to get back into this. We need to get back into this actual tutorial, which is lighting. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much we have tangentized today. And that's right, tangentized. That is my word. That is my word of the day. Okay, guys, so now that you've figured out all that stuff, now that you have created your character in a fashion that has all the shadows, now you're ready to start doing the easy part, and that is putting the local color on and lighting your character. Okay, so now you can say, okay, we're gonna light this character. Oh, and here's the really fun part, is because now you can choose to light your character however you wish if you set up the lines in this fashion. And that is like this. Okay, so we're gonna say, okay, what color is D.VA's skin? What is the local color? AKA, if we shine a bright light on it, what color is her skin? And I'd say it's right around this peach color, okay? So check this out. So we're gonna go and select the skin and make sure that it's also locked. You wanna make sure that you lock these layers by direct your attention down here, clicking this magical checkerboard button. That's gonna allow you to work with your layers individually and not mess everything up, okay? So now let's say, okay, let's have a lighting scheme where all the light is coming from the side. Oh, interesting. Interesting. And don't forget, right, because in this transition area, you're going to have a little bit of what we call subsurface scattering. And a really easy way to do this is to just select that with your eyedrop tool and then just saturate it a little bit more. Saturate it, move it, and easy, layman's terms is move it to the right and up. Move it to the right and up, and then you're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of that in there for that transition, okay? That's gonna create a really cool look, okay? It's gonna simulate skin. And don't overdo it, right? Don't overdo it, because a little bit goes a long way, okay? And then you can go in there with your brush and you can put in those cast shadows. Oh, doesn't that look nice? And you're on your way to an awesome piece already. You're on your way. Okay, and let's go ahead and lighten this up just even more. Even more, I want to lighten this up. There we go. Okay, cool. Cool. Oh, that was a little too much. Okay, like I said, don't go overboard. Don't go overboard, okay? Just find a nice, happy medium, okay? So there you go. You've begun to light your character. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is why it's so much nicer to start with the shadow. Because do you notice how I added the light onto this face? I added the light by saying, okay, let's do the local color. Let's see how that interacts with the shadow, right? I put this color on. And then you said, oh, okay, well, this is nice, but then we run into the problem of this kind of weird muddy color that happens. And how do we fix that? With the subsurface, right? Add in a little bit of saturation in between. And that works with a lot of things, not just on skin. You'd be surprised at how many times that can kind of save your piece. Just saturate your transitions. It really helps out a lot, okay? Put a little bit of shadow there. And now let's go ahead and continue with the rest of the piece, right? This may not be the final setup that we end up going with, but this is really good for our tutorial. So we're just running with that today, okay? So now let's go ahead and move on to the hair, okay? So the hair, what is the local color of the hair? What is the shiny part of the hair? Let's go ahead and say it's like this brown. So let's go ahead and make sure we're being consistent. Let's go ahead and throw in that. Do you see how now we are able to very quickly lighten or color our piece in a fashion that just looks really nice. And it looks that way because we set up our shadows. And now all we have to worry about is lighting. All we got to worry about is lighting. Okay? Cool, huh? I love that stuff. Love it. Okay, let's go ahead and put that really cool blue on that we liked before. I think it was this one. Yeah. It was just this blue. Let's go ahead and put that blue on. Boom. Like that. Here's a really cool tip for you guys. Sometimes I like to do this where I'll just light the entire area. Then I'll just go ahead and eyedrop this shadow. And I'll paint the shadows back in. Paint the shadows like this. And then if you make your brush really small, you can go in there and create like cast shadows like this. Cool, huh? Love that stuff. So, and I'm just working with the soft brush here, mind you. See, I can also create a cast shadow, say here, if I wanted to. Create a cast shadow on her fingers, right? And then you can go in and put in like little subtle shadows, like on the chest and all that stuff, which is very important, right? Don't forget about that stuff, okay? Little subtle stuff. And then before you know it, as you go layer by layer, lighting each individual piece, you'll begin to see your piece taking shape. Your piece is beginning to take shape. Awesome. And you already have those really cool transitions built in. You can go ahead and grab those shadows, place them wherever you like. Get that stuff down. If you want stuff to look shiny, here's another little mini tutorial for you right here. You just got to bring in those, You just got to bring in your speculars, or you got to heighten your speculars. Allow, say for this metallic piece, or sorry, this plastic piece, whatever this is made of, if you want it to appear shiny, then all you got to do is kind of pull in that specular a little bit at one point. Kind of like right there, okay? Kind of do one of these things. See, the more you tighten that specular, it'll give it that little bit of shininess. Give it a little bit of shininess. It'll look really nice. Look really nice like that. Yeah, that's pretty okay. Actually, I envision that looking a lot better, but whatever. We're not focusing on that for today's tutorial, so I excuse myself. Okay, cool. So that's a good start. That's a really good start. And then look, it's actually as simple as this, guys. Oftentimes I'll do this type of thing where I'll just grab the local color of whatever it is I'm painting in, and I'll just get I'll just make the soft brush really big, and I'll just go ahead and just start throwing it in. Just throw it in like that, right? Obviously being consistent with all of our lighting scheme, right? In this case, it's coming from the right side. So we're making sure everything is nice and consistent. And I like that. I like that a lot. I'm actually going to kick up this blue even more. See, and this is really fun, guys. This is what I want you guys to get at, is that you start realizing that, hey, this is actually really fun because I feel like now I'm truly lighting my character. I'm truly lighting the character rather than painting in shadows. I don't believe in painting in shadows. I don't like to do that stuff. I like lighting characters. It's very, very fun. It's much more natural. I feel like you learn a lot more. And yeah, everybody should be doing it. Everybody should be doing it this way. Okay, so get in there, light your characters, have some fun. And yeah, that's looking pretty dang cool. Let's go ahead and just finish up the rest of this, and then we are going to end today's show. Really happy with how this is looking so far. Okay, so we got the metal. And you'll notice also, the other thing that I want to say is, do you notice how I am also being consistent with my light source? Because I've said, okay, I want my lights to be a bright, or I want it to be a warm colored light. So as I'm throwing in my colors, right, see how I'm now moving back up towards the warm parts. I'm moving more warm with my colors. And actually there would be no light there because that's on the side of the head. And then also I'm saying stuff like, hey, this is interesting. So the hair looks good, but I feel like if it was in this shadow, it would actually be even darker and more blue. So let's go ahead and put that in there and see how that affects the rest of the piece. And I would say that that is a win. I would say that is a win. Cool. Yeah, I'm liking that. And then also a big part of this will look a lot better once we light the eyes as well. So let's go ahead and light up the eyes. Got a little bit going on there. Don't want to do too much because then it looks like a crazy freaking... You know what I'm talking about, those weird cosplay photos where they lighten the eyes too much and then it looks like their eyes are like glowing on a character that is not like a night elf or something, so it just looks really creepy. Let's see here. We also need to do... What are we missing? What are we missing here? Oh, the golds. I'm right on the golds. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and paint in the golds. A little bit of gold there. A little bit of gold there. Awesome. All right, guys. So now you've gotten it to this point. And now the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is that you'll say, okay, this is a nicely lit piece or a good start. This is a good start. But then what we're going to start with and what we're going to be leading into for next week is line coloring. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a quick rundown on that. Okay, so you have the colors or you have the lines on their own layer, as you have learned, that look like this, right? And if we take them away, that's what actually, there's all the masks and all the things that we've laid underneath. And if you look at just that, if you look at just the colors right there, you would say something like, hey, that is a nice arrangement of colors, or at least that's what I'm hoping you're saying. And that is good, right? However, when we put these colors on, or when we put the lines on, it tends to kind of make things a little bit muddy, specifically in the face. And here is what I'm going to leave you guys with. And that is line coloring. Okay, guys? So with the face, I'm saying I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you, that a good way to start with this stuff is start with red. Start with a red, okay? And then I want you guys to go to your line layer. And then again, remember this magical little button right down here, this checkerboard? Click that. And then what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to select a color. And then you can go in there and begin painting just the lines. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that the most amazing thing you've ever seen? I love it. I love this stuff. I never get enough of it. And you can go in there and you can begin adding color to your lines. And what this is going to do is it is going to soften up. It's going to soften up the face, and it's going to allow you to get those muddy colors out of there, specifically in here. See how we just made that transition very nice and smooth? Put a little bit there, a little bit there. Oh, but careful when you're doing it in here, because then it'll, you want to be a little bit careful with it, right? Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. But a little bit goes a long way. Okay, a little bit in there. Look at how it just simulates. See how it just simulates that subsurface? I love this trick. So cool. So cool, and I think everybody should be doing it. Everybody should be doing it this way. So that's where I'm going to leave you. We're going to move more into this next week. And with that, probably going to finish it up. And I'm going to upload this to Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, let's go ahead and say thank you to our amazing sponsors. And get the awesome fanfares. Laura Bashir, David Cariello, Megan Gwynn, Ian Crowell, and Matthias Silva. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the show on Patreon. And thank you very much to my sponsors of the past. You guys are amazing, keeping the lights running at night. Again, you guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for being the most amazing community in the world. I love you guys. The stuff you post on the MZ, the stuff you post on the Facebook, it makes my day. I cannot tell you how much I love you guys. Oh yes, and before we go, if you would like to get today's PSD, then just go ahead and click on this picture right here. Click on D.VA's face. That'll take you over to the Patreon where you can support the show. Download not only today's PSD, but all the other PSDs from the past. You can dissect that stuff, color the lines, take a look at all the colors that I chose for myself. You can get in there. I highly recommend you guys do this, getting in there and actually looking at and studying what colors I picked and remembering everything that we've learned today about the shadows, about cooling off shadows, about consistency, laying out the lines and all that good stuff. And you guys can go have a good time with that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining me on YouTube for another episode. I'll see you guys next week. I almost forgot. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Keenan Lafferty. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time. All that good stuff. Stay cool. Stay awesome. I'll see you soon. Later.